Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Breeze, Breezeway Productions The Breeze, where we bring you the latest in independent films and film festival news. And we continue our coverage of this year's 2025 Tribeca Film Festival with a very interesting, very engaging documentary called The End of Quiet. We have directors Kasper Bisgaard and Mikael Lypinski here to talk about the film. How are you, gentlemen?
We're very good.
Right on.
Pleasure
Thanks
to
for
be
having
here.
us.
Of course. Thank you for coming on the show. So let's start the ball rolling by telling me a little bit about The End of Quiet.
Well, The End of Quiet is set in a town called Greenbank in West Virginia, where the world's largest telescope is placed. It's very sensitive, so it needs absolutely radio quiet. So we are exploring, how it is to live without cell phones and other connectivities that we used to in modern life.
It's interesting. That's exactly the the summary of the film. But alongside that, with the telescope that's in West Virginia, you follow the story of numerous people in that community. You follow. We could start with the story of the grandpa and the daughter. How did you introduce yourselves to this family unit, and then work with them to follow them about their daily activities?
Mike, maybe you should.
Yeah, we basically try to approach all our characters in the quiet zone in a similar way, which is to be very upfront and honest about our intentions. You know, we are these two, A, foreigners, B, complete strangers to the place, but we're very fascinated by the area. And would you mind if we would ask you a few questions and follow you around in your daily life? And luckily, most of the people we talked to, they agreed. They trusted us, including Dave and Brianna, who call themselves Bonnie and Clyde. We started filming them 6 years ago when Brianna was only around 14 years old, 15. Uh, and then we were lucky to see how their relationship evolved over the years.
Yeah, they really are an interesting couple to follow. A lot of guns, a lot of shooting, a lot of interesting conversation back and forth. Did you give them subject matter to talk about while you were filming them, talking about extraterrestrials or the worry in America? Did you talk to them about that and then roll on it, or just let them just have their conversations and you picked up what they spoke about?
But to some extent, I mean, when we met Dave and in our first conversation, he was mentioning that he had a telescope himself. And we thought, okay, he likes guns and he has a telescope and he has a fantastic granddaughter. So we thought
America,
this
pretty
and of
much.
course and of course since he had the telescope, it was natural for him and Brianna to we obviously give them a few questions and then started just to talk because it seemed natural because he in himself is fascinated by space. Dave.
Yeah.
And so in that way, it came natural to have that kind of conversation.
He went into a lot of other aspects, talking about religion as well and how his interpretation of it and what the possibility could be when he was talking with his granddaughter. And there was a strong love bond connection there that was very heartwarming and endearing, mixed with a sense of ultraviolence and the world around us completely falling apart. So that was interesting to see that whole story meld as the story went on. And then you went on to some other characters. There's the woman who has a hypersensitivity to the radio signals, which is a heartbreaking sense of hearing her story. How did like you work with her in regards to it? Because I know some of the equipment that came around might have used radio waves or things like that. I'm sure that kind of affected her. No.
It did, and just to give an example, there was one point because I brought a thing
Yeah.
like this there, but it was on flight mode, just to keep on time and stuff like that, because you can't use a cell phone there. But at one point it dropped out of my pocket while shooting, and she freaked out, obviously.
Freaked out.
Yeah, and she felt that there was something, and it was on flight mode and everything. So just as an example, and another example is that if you want to make good sound, you need to have microports, small microports, but they're wireless, right? So we before going there, we had to create cables, long cables, special cables for the small microphones because we could not use them, both because they're not allowed, and secondly because of her, that she didn't want to have something that will have these small radio signals, right? So
Yeah.
that's how we went around it. So we had to do equipment and yeah.
It's interesting. She can't live anywhere else because the world is so encompassed by this technology, and that if that really affects her health that much, that's the place that she can live. So it was
Yeah.
fascinating to learn about her. It's just who thinks of these things. It's like you don't think about them in daily life, and it takes a documentary where you guys explore and then discover these types of people to showcase it to us. So, and then we can move on to the scientist. We're talking about the science of the telescope, and you speak with him about how upset he is that the frequencies are getting squashed by satellites and whatnot. Is there any silver lining about it, or like what drew him to discover these types of signals, and what is the importance of them?
I mean, the importance is for, I can only interpret it what he's saying is that there should be regulation towards this to the satellites. I mean, there are thousands of satellites each year being put up now that which basically makes these guys' cell phones work really nicely in any area on the planet. But unfortunately, there are some frequencies that make it really, really difficult for them to look, to get the small signals down to the dish. So I'm sure what he will say is that it has to be regulated. Space has to be regulated. You know,
Yeah, it does. I
because
feel like
otherwise,
there's
this is permanent. Because
That's permanent damage.
permanent
Um,
damage. The signals will never get through. If it's damaged, it's for life, forever, for future generations as well.
hmm.
so it's quite an irony that they already back in the late 50s they created this quiet zone, uh, creating ideal an ideal world for them to do their science. But during the all the decades later, the sky has become polluted. And how do you stop that? How do you deal with that?
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It
sorry.
does it doesn't make it any better that we see people like Elon Musk launching like Skylink, and then there's new satellites that are going up every day, and other companies are competing against that and launching more, and then there's that creates space junk, which makes space a dirty place also, and that it's just kind of like a domino effect, which can not be good for people to do their science work and whatnot. Fascinating story, and I guess I'll close on the final couple that's in the film. You have the relationship between the young man and woman who has the child in West Virginia. So why did you choose them to be also included in that? Is that to showcase the strata of old to young, or just a different bird's eye view of what's going on with that couple, or why did you include that with the end of Quiet?
I mean, retrospectively, looking at it now, I mean, we wanted to have a feeling of, almost like paradise. That you have these young kids that are sort of can talk about everything in love, that they're so innocent and is pure. And but as the first line of the film is, I think there are snakes here. That's the first line of the film. So maybe there are some snakes in paradise.
Yeah, I mean, although it may be quiet, you did showcase things that are happening in West Virginia, which brings a microscope over the community and possibly how the people in West Virginia could be hurting as well. It was just an interesting showcase of the lives of them. You have the scene of them in the car where they're talking about how he needs to get a job and the child is coming, and then the child is born, and it's hard for families out there, even with like multiple full-time jobs, especially in New York. So it showcases that West Virginia has a lot of struggles, and that there's more attention needs to be paid on that as well as the scientific aspect of it with the telescope looking out into space. I thought that the whole thing was very fascinating. I think you two did a really great job on the documentary, and we hope that audiences are able to check it out at the Tribeca Film Festival this year, 2025. Do you guys know when and where you guys are screening?
Yes, the world premiere is coming up this Saturday, the 7th. Um, afternoon, and three of the characters from West Virginia are coming. The scientist is coming, the girl that you just, the young woman that you just mentioned, and also Dave, the gunslinger, so to speak.
Call him a
So,
gunslinger.
yeah.
That guy, I'm sure that guy's gonna have a lot of questions in the audience because he's a character that deserves to be in a movie. Specifically, the one shot of him with his armada of guns in front of the American flag. I mean, that was just such a very memorable scene of him talking about what's happening in the world and how he's ready and he's not afraid, and just wild. And that it really brought a lot of color to the documentary. So congratulations on the film, and we hope our audiences is able to check out The End of Quiet, screening at Tribeca this year. And gentlemen, I hope you have a great time at the premiere and taking the time to speak with me on The Breeze.
Thank you for having us.
Of course.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.